Hey, Mr. Lee, 7th grade math class. This is the Chapter 4 helper for the guided assessment. This is what you guys are going to use to study for your Chapter 4 test, which will be on Friday, August 22nd. The very first problem that I'm going to look at is Nick's problem. This story problem says, if all gloves at Nick's are marked 25% off, what fraction of the regular price would I pay? Okay, here's the thing. I know it's 25% off. Okay, so 25% off means 25 over 100. Alright, now here's the thing. When I do 25 over 100, I can reduce it down to, I know my quarters, it's going to be 25 divided by 25. That equals 1 over 4. This is how much 25% off would be. It's 1/4. But I need to get my regular price and subtract it from the sale, and it's going to get me the reduced price. Alright, so regular price, my regular price would be, okay, if I have 100%, that's one whole, and I subtract it from the sale, which is 1/4, I will get my reduced price. How much would I pay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply this by 4 to get a common denominator. So I have 4 over 4 minus 1/4. So 4 minus 1 is 3 over 4. My regular price, my sales price, how much would I pay, is going to be 3 over 4. Here's the thing. People are probably asking, how do I get 25? Remember, when I want to reduce, I make a factor tree. So it's 25 and the 100 right here. So 25 is 5 times 5, and 100 is 10 times 10. Okay? And I know that 10 can turn into the 2 times 5, and this 10 can turn into 2 times 5. Now I have to find the common, so I'm going to match up my commons. So I know on the left-hand side, this 5 matches with this 5. So I can write 5 one time right here. I also know I have another 5, and it can match, this 5 matches with this 5 over here. So I'll write 5 one more time right here. So 5 times 5 gets me 25. And that's how I can divide this fraction by 25. That's how you simplify a fraction. The next question I'm going to do, here's a sell sign. The sell in front of the softball bats read, softball bats are 20% off. Baseball bats are 1/3 off. We have to identify which statements are true. So here we go. I need to figure out the softball bats. The softball bats are 1/5 off. This is a percent. So I need to turn my softball bats, I need to turn the 20% into a fraction, into a ratio. So 20% means 20 out of 100. 20 out of 100. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to have to figure out what this looks like as a simplified fraction. So 20 is right here, and 100 is right here. 20 reduces into 4 times 5. I know 100 is 10 times 10. So I know 4 is 2 times 2, and I still drag down my 5. 10 is 2 times 5, and 10 is 2 times 5. Alright, so what do they have in common? Well, I know there's a 2 right here, and a 2 right here. So I can write, for my commons, 2 one time. I also know that there is another 2 here, and another 2 right there. So I can write, because I matched it again, I can write 2 again. And because I have a 5 right here, I can match it with this 5 right here. Notice that this 5, he is by himself. So he's left alone, but I can write again times 5. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 5, well, that equals 20. Alright, so I could divide my fraction by 20. I can divide top and bottom by 20. Because when I do the bottom, I do the top. 20 divided by 20, that's 1. 100 divided by 20 is 5. I know softball bats are 1/5 off, so I can check this one off. There's still more that we can check off. The amounts of discount is more than the discount of baseball bats. So, we have to compare 1/5 to 1/3. The way that I'm going to do that is I have to match the downstairs. 5 right here, I'm going to multiply him by the 3. Why? Because 3 is his neighbor. So when I do the bottom, I do the top. So I multiply the 1 by 3. That will get me 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay? Now, I need to make the 3 into a 15. How do I make 3 into 15? Well, I have to times him by 5. So that gets me 15 right here. When I do the bottom, I do the top. What do I times this 1 right here by? I times them by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. What's bigger? My denominators match, but I have to look at the upstairs. 3 is on the upstairs here. 5 is on the upstairs here. The mouth goes this way. So are softball bats more than baseball bats? No. Okay. Next one. So do not check this guy. Baseball bats are 33% off. Here's the baseball bats. I know they are 1/3. If you guys don't know, 1/3 always turns into 0.33. And 0.33 is 33%. You need to memorize that 1/3 equals 33%. So this one is good. Check this one off. Both of the bats are discounted the same. No, 20% is not the same as 1/3. Alright, here's the next problem. A pair of rubber cleats normally sell for $45, but is marked down by $10. A pair of metal cleats sells for $60, but marked down by $10. Is this a true or false? The two cleats have been marked down by the same fraction. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make two proportions. We're going to have the normal proportion for the normal cleats and the metal proportion for the metal cleats. The normal ones, a proportion means it's going to be set equal to two fractions, okay? We're going to deal with percent. So one fraction has the 100 in the downstairs. Okay, now for the normal ones. The normal price is at $45. So I'll put the $45 right here because that's what you get at 100%. The markdown, the discount, is $10. For the metal ones, when it's at 100% sale, it's at $60. Now, the markdown is at $10. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do we're going to do actually 3 factor trees. So what I'm going to do is this. I get the number 10 because it's $10 right here. And I factor tree him, which is 2 times 5. We're going to do the factor tree for the number 45. We're going to do the factor tree for the number 45. So that is 5 times 9, which breaks down into 3 times 3. And I drag down the 5. What do they have in common? What do they have in common? They both have 5. So that means I could put for my common one is going to be a 5. I divide this guy by 5, and I divide the 45 by 5, because when I do the top, I do the bottom. So instead of $10, I have 10 divided by 5 is $2. 45 divided by 5, that gets me $9. Okay? So we have, the question is, we're going to compare, are the 2 cleats, do they have the same fraction amount? Alright? Next, I'm going to do the GCF for 60. 60 is 6 times 10. Break this down for me. What's 6 do? 6 is 2 times 3. Alright, so that's 2 times 3, and 10 is 2 times 5. Alright, now I want to reduce the 10, which is 2 times 5. What do they have in common? What they have in common is a 2 and a 2, so I'll write down 2 right here. And what else do they have in common? They have 5 and a 5. So I could write 2 times 5, which equals the 10. 10 divided by 10, well, that gets me $1. What's 60 divided by 10? 60 divided by 10 is 6. Okay? The question was, do these have the same fractional cell? 2 over 9, is this the same as 1 over 6? The answer is false. Alright? The answer is false. The next one we're going to do is this. We're going to do, if 50% glove is on sale for $10, what is the discount percent? Alright, watch out for these story problems. Here we go. If a $50 glove is on sale for $10 off, what is the discount as a percent? We're going to have to do our proportion technique. So we have the proportion technique. We have to set this over 100. What was the sale when it was at 100%? It was at $50. How much did we save though? We got $10 off, but we don't know what percent discount it is, okay? 50 times what gets me 100? 50 times 2. Well, I do the bottom, I do the top, so 10 times 2 is 20. Make sure you mark down 20%. Okay, this is problem 6. And problem 6 is probably the longest, not hardest, but it is the longest problem for the guided assessment. Problem 6 is made up of 4 mini problems. I'm going to go over A, B, C, and D. Here we go. A and B are a lot alike. So A is with the softballs. The regular price for the softballs, the regular price of the softballs is $25. And this is when regular sale means the number is at 100%. So we set up our proportion equal to 100%. What was the sale price though? It was at 20. Here we go. 25 times what would get me 100? 25 times 4. When I do the bottom, I do the top. So this is times 4. 20 times 4 gets me 80. Now here's the trick. Here is the trick. We found out that we'll have to pay when we do $20. That's going to be only 80%. What was the discount though? The discount was 20%. 20%. So that's for number A. Number B is a lot alike. We're doing letter B. The regular price was at 8. I set this to 100. My sale price was at 6. Okay? So, let's reduce this. I'm going to be using GCF on the side. I know the greatest common factor is 2. So I can reduce 6 and 8. I simplify them by 2. Again, the GCF, I did this on the side. I expect you guys to do this on your own. GCF is 2 for 6 and 8. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And this equals 100. 4 times what gets me 100? 4 times the 25. 4 times 25 will get me 100. This is 25. When I do the bottom, I do the top. 3 times 25 is 75. Time out. Time out. We do not get this 75%. Do not get the 75%. Here's the trick again. We have 100%. Okay? At, what was it? $8 was our regular price. We saved $6. We want to know the discount. How much did Walmart discount or the sports store discount? So it's 100 minus 75. 100 minus 75, it's 25%. But there's no 25% here. What does 25% turn into? 25% as a fraction is 25 or 100. 25 or 100, the GCF is 25, so this is 1 over 4. This is 1 over 4. Okay. That's for A and B. Pause it right here so you can get this down. I'm going to do C and D here. This is for C. C, the sell price is, or the sell price is at 14. The regular price is at 42. 42 is the original price, so we set that to 100%. I have to do some GCF. If you do the GCF for letter C for 14 and 42, it should be 7. Check your work on the right-hand side right here. Again, this is what the GCF. The GCF is 7. So 14 divided by 7. That gets me to 2. 42 divided by 7 gets me 6. You could also reduce that. That's 1/3. So the GCF then would have been 14. Alright. So let's reduce this down. This is 1/3. This equals 100. Now this one's a little bit tricky here because 3 times nothing can get me into 100. Time out though. I know 1/3. 1/3 is what decimal? What does 1/3 equal as a decimal? That equals 0.33. Okay? So I know that this is 0.33. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do then is subtract, because I know 0.33 is 33%. 33%, I could subtract 33% from 100%. So 100% minus 33%. 100 minus 33%, that's going to get me 66%. Do we see anything that's close to 66%? We see this first one. So drag in and show your work for this. 66 and 2/3 Okay? We're going to do letter D now. We're going to do letter D. Letter D is this one. Letter D is the regular price is 12. The sales price was 10. We set this to 100% because it's a percent. I find the GCF of 10 and 12. What's the GCF of 10 and 12? Set it up. Guys, knock it down. What is it? That's 2 times 5. And this has to be 2 times 6, which turns into 2 times 3, and that's a 2. We match. So a 2 here and a 2 here. So that means I can reduce 10 over 6 into 10 divided by 2. That gets me 5. 12 divided by 2 is what? 6. Okay, this is out of 100. Now look, I have 5 over 6. I know 6 can't go into 100 well. This is what I will do. This is a third technique. 5 over 6. I know I have to subtract it from 100. What does 100 look like as a decimal? 100 looks like as 1.00. That's what 100 looks like as a decimal. What does 1 look like as a fraction? That's 1 over 1. 1 as a fraction is 1 over 1. Now I subtract 5 sixths from it. 1 over 1 minus 5 over 6. What I'm going to get now is this. I need the common denominator. So I leave the 5 sixths alone. So it's 1 times 6. What I do upstairs, I do downstairs. So it's 1 times 6. Now I have 6 over 6 minus 5 over 6. The answer is 1 over 6. I need you guys to drag down a 1 over 6 for letter D. 1 over 6. Here we go. In a recent survey, 40 baseball players and 75 softball players. Underline this, or keep this in mind. There's 40 baseball players and 75 softball players. We're asked which side of the plate they hit from. A switch hitter, that's a guy that can go both left and right. The question is, what decimal is equivalent to the fraction of baseball that go right hand? Okay, you need to do needle for this. So we need to find our right-handed guys. It's 28. We need to find baseball. So we have 28 over 40. We can GCF this. So we could make this a simpler fraction. So this is 4 times 8, and we know this is 4 times 10. Okay? So I'm going to divide both guys for now. I'm going to do this real fast. By 4. 28 divided by 4 is what? 28 divided by 4 gets me 8. 40. No. 7 times. It's 4 times 7. And 40 divided by 4, that gets me 10. I have an easy needle now. So I put the 7 inside and 10 here. Put a 0, put a dot, put another 0. 10 goes into 70, 70 times. So mark off this guy right here. What percent of softball players are left-handed? So we need the softball player. We need the 75. And how many is it left-handed? We have 20 over 75. We have to do our factor trees. So 20 and 75, that's 4 times 5, and that gets me 25 times 3. or I could do 5 times 5. What do they have in common? It looks like they have a 5 in common. So I'll divide both guys by a 5. So this equals 475 divided by 5. That's going to get me 15. 75 divided by 5 should get me 15. Now we set up our needle because we want a decimal percent. So the 4 is in here, the 15 is out here. I put a 0 and a dot. I put a 0 inside. 15 goes in the 40. That goes in there 2 times, and that gets me 30. So I drop the 1 and the 0, and I put another 0. 15 goes into 100. Well, I'm going to guess that goes in there. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. That's 75. I can go a little bit bigger. So let's try 15 times 6. That has to get me 30. Carry that, that's 90. Alright, so I'll put a 6 right here. And I will put 6 times 15 is 90. I subtract, I get 100. Looks like it goes on forever. What is 0.26? What is 0.26 as a percent? 0.26. How do I write that as a percent? That's 26%. So, cross them off right there. What is the simplest fraction that represents switch hitters for baseball players? Okay, we need to look at the baseball players who are on the left-hand side. There's 40 of them. That's a total of 40. How many switch hitters are there? There's 2. The GCF looks like it has to be 2. Because, look, 2 is 2 times 1, and I know 4 is 2 times 2, and I know this is 10, or 10 turns into the 2 times 5. Okay, that's a 10, so that's 2 times 5. I have you guys doing GCF a lot. I need you guys to practice this so you can do good on the test. So let's divide this. 2 and 2. So I have 1 over 20. Make sure you mark off 1 over 20. 1 over 20. Alright, we're close to the end. We have 2 more. If 100 baseball players were served with similar results, how many would be switch hitters? Looks like they want us to do a proportion. We're comparing 2 fractions. We have one fraction that has 100. We have our first fraction that has 40. We have this as 2. 2 over 40. We know from the last problem, 2 over 40, what does that turn into? That reduces into 1 over 20 equals 100. 20 times what would get me 100? 20 times 5. 25 times 5 is 100. So I have to do 1 times 5. So how many switch hitters would there be? There would have to be 5. So check off the 5. Last problem. Here we go. Last problem. Which of the following statements is true? Alright, we have to do a lot of these. The fraction of switch hitters for softball is greater than 120. How many switch hitters does softball have? Let's see, we have 5 over 75. 5 over 75, let's see, that reduces into 1, and because the GCF is 5, 75 can turn into the 15. Let's see what's bigger, 1 over 15 or 1 over 20. Well, what I'm going to do then is this. 1 over 15, 1 over 20, those are really big numbers. I am going to compare this. I'm going to say 1 times 20, 1 times, or 15 times 20, and the 20 times 15, and the 1 times the 15. The big trick right here is to figure out what's 15 times 20. So 0 times anything is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1, that's 3. So this dude is 300. The denominators are 300. 1 times 20 is 20. 1 times 15 is 15. What's bigger? 20 is bigger than 15. So that means 1 over 15 is bigger. You don't circle that guy. Don't circle this guy. So let's figure out what else we need to check. The percent of right-hand baseball hitters is equal to right-hand softball hitters. That's false. So we don't check this guy or this guy. What else can we check? We cannot check this one or this one. More than 65% of those surveyed are right-handed. How many people do we have? Let's add 40 plus 75. 40 plus 75, that gets me 5. That gets me 125. So total right-handed is 125. Or total people is 125. We have to add all the right-handed. So it's 28 plus 50. So I have 78. 78 over 125. I need to set up a needle. This is going to be a really strange needle. Not really. We know 125, it has a 25 in it. So we put a 0 and a dot and a 0. How many times does 125 go into 780? Well, I'm going to think of it like I have $1.25. So $1.25, $2.50, $3.75, so on and so forth. So I'm going to try 125 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 6 times 2 is 18. Or 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 3 is 15. Carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 7. That's 750. So I have a 6 right here. So right now I've got 750. I bring down that. So this is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 8 minus 5. That gets me 3. I bring down another 0. I put a 5 right here because 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. That's a little bit too big. So it looks like I can't mark off this guy because we were trying to get 65%. So it's not even. The only one that we can mark then is this guy. Alright guys, really, I'll study your notes for tomorrow's test. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck.